Hello, everybody. Welcome to Relationship Marketing with Cody B. We have a very special two guests on our call today. We're going to get to them in just a minute. I tell you, we've been waiting a long time to have this couple with us today, and it's an honor to have them with us. We have legends in the house today. We are going to be speaking to some people that have transformed the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. They're now a husband and wife team making a huge impact in the world. This couple comes from the direct sales industry, direct sales and network marketing. There's a 40-year history here. Without further ado, I want to introduce Larry and Taylor Thompson. And Larry was the co-founder of Herbalife. Now, I'm sure that's a household name, so everybody ought to know what Herbalife is. He co-founded Herbalife with his good friend Mark Hughes back in February of 1980, and went on a 40-year journey in not only helping to establish billions and billions of dollars in sales, but more importantly, mentoring millionaires. In fact, he's known for mentoring millionaires, and there's a lot of who's who names that are in the profession of network marketing that Larry actually was their mentor. So he's been called the mentor to millionaires. The Wall Street Journal has deemed Larry as the architect of wealth building. He started out as a hippie construction worker. He's still that at heart. I've had the chance to hear him speak, and I love his stories. The best thing that ever happened to him was, I believe, in 2005, when those of you who are on YouTube can see these two right now. 2005, he married his sweetheart, who is Taylor, and they've been a team effort ever since 2005. And it's funny because I got this long list of things I should be saying about Larry and Taylor's accomplishments, but it's funny because in our pre-show, Larry was quick to say, forget about all that stuff. Forget about all those past things. And we're talking some major things. I would say Larry Thompson's probably in the top 5 of all time of network marketing expert professionals that have made an impact in our industry. Easily in the top 5. We're talking, he is at the top echelon in the last 40 years of the entire network marketing profession, which is a $180 billion profession around the world today. So we have a lot to learn from Larry. And since Taylor has joined Larry back in 2005, it's kind of like their contribution has escalated tenfold. It's like, Larry, you were good before, but with Taylor, it's 10 timesing what you're capable to do. So without further ado, Larry and Taylor Thompson, welcome to the show today.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, glad to be here. And I don't know if I'm going to correct you under 40 years or not because it ages me, but it's 50 years. Okay? I actually got started from being a long-haired hippie construction worker. That's all I'd ever known. I never finished high school or anything because I was too shy to give the oral book report that was required back then. And so at 16, I quit school and went to work with my dad, my brothers, and my cousins, and cement finisher. I was a cement finisher, and I loved my job. It never occurred to me to do anything different. But for me, in 1968, I got invited to a meeting, like so many, what happened back then. And I came to the Hyatt Hotel in San Jose, California, there on First Street, and attended the first time I'd ever been in a hotel in my life. And 2 significant things happened to me that night that set me on this path, this journey of trying to be better and trying to help other people be better. And, in the process, earn as much money that if you earn, I use the word earn as much money as you can, based on the value that you bring to the marketplace. But 2 things happened to me that night. Number 1 was Bobby DePew was given that meeting, and Bobby DePew, in my opinion, was the original tactician and strategist of wasn't called network marketing back then. And that was one thing that happened.
It was called pyramiding.
It was called pyramiding back then, right? It was because there was no rules, and so it was pyramiding. That's what it was called. And so I got started there, but something else very significant happened that night. Attending the very same meeting that joined me. I joined that night, but someone else was there that night that joined the same meeting also, and it was Jim Rohn. And I'm sure your audience is very familiar with Jim Rohn. If you're not, get Jim Rohn in you as fast as you possibly can. He's no longer with us, but he's watching us. And it was amazing. And 3 weeks after I joined my business, my very first training class, Jim was given a training class for his team, and I was invited to come. And it was the first time in my life, ever someone told me that someone like me with no self-confidence, no self be able to change your life and do something significant with it. And so it was just remarkable for me. And that started my journey.
You know, it's interesting. I've heard you tell that story before. And of course, I was a huge fan of Jim Rohn myself,
Sure.
still am. It just incredible contributor. It's interesting because I'm sure you would consider him probably to be maybe your original mentor in what you do or have done over the last 50 years. It's interesting how some people resonate with your soul. When I hear you tell the story, it's like, man, when you heard these guys for the first time, their simple messaging resonated with your soul. So what it did is it pulled out of you who you really were.
Yes.
Like it helped you to recognize who you always were as a person. You weren't the construction guy. You were this guy that could really help mentor lots of people.
Well, I want to address that for just a few minutes because, we're talking about relationship, and this is, we're talking about relationships and how relationships can build businesses. That's really the focus of what you do, Cody. But I mean, this is a relationship that was established. His mentor being Bobby DePew. Most people don't know him, but he was the original statistician, the original, a genius behind how to market. And it was whenever they looked at Larry, I mean, he wasn't your typical pyramid or 40-year-old, 3-piece suit guy. They looked at him like as a person, and they wrapped their arms around him and said, hey, come on, like if we can do it, you can do it. And they had somebody that was willing to do the work, that was teachable in the process. So whenever you have Bobby, with the strategy, and then you have Jim that was mentoring him with the philosophical approach, and you had two of these amazing men pouring into him, that allows us to have what we have today 50 years later. It was those kind of relationships that were established that we can't call him the mentor to the millionaires. We can't call him the architect of wealth building, but it took two people that saw him and saw potential in him and was willing to pour their time and energy and build a relationship with him.
So let's talk about mentorship. I mean, I think that's a key word here. And both of you are such great examples of that. I mean, what is mentorship? When you say mentorship, what is that to you? Help my audience to understand. Go in depth on that. What is it? What is it really?
Well, my take on mentorship is different than what the public has today of mentorship. Okay, my deal of mentorship is leadership, and leadership is by example. Jim and Bobby did not teach me things that they in fact weren't doing, and everything that Jim shared with me. And by the way, I spent all their lives, from the time I met them until the time they went home to be with the Lord, I spent work with them all the time. And later on, I worked with Bobby over the last 4 years of his life. I'm the one that brought Jim Rohn into Herbalife, okay? And we were tied at the hips. And nobody spent more personal time or stage time with Jim than me. Jim was the same on the stage as off the stage, okay? And that was Jim. That's who he was. And so mentorship to me is being what you're trying to share with someone, you actually being, not because you got it in a book, not because you got it in a mastermind, but because you yourself are actually doing it. And that's what I take as mentorship. And I'm sure Taylor's got an addition to that because she's a woman and she sees it differently. And that's where we got to learn how to understand that there has been some major shifts. Basic fundamentals haven't shifted, but the shift of the language and audience has changed.
I would say mentorship for me, I mean, it is along those same lines of what Larry's talking about, but mentor, meaning if you broke it down, actually is mentoring you through the places that they've already walked.
Good.
Wow, that's
And,
good.
and so this comes from the experiences. And so that's why whenever in what we do, and we're talking about relationships, why having a personal story is so valid, because it allows for the person that's hearing the storyteller, right, tell their story. It allows them to say, wow, if they can do that and go through all of those obstacles and overcome all of those challenges and have success on the other side, maybe I can do the same thing. If they can do it, maybe I can do it. And so for me, that's mentorship, is showing, giving people, saying, hey, I've been there, I've done that, I know what it's like, but I can tell you that if you just trust the process, there's a light at the other side of the tunnel.
That's
So
really
that's
good.
mentorship.
Really good.
Very
So
good.
I have a book that's titled The Power of Human Connection. Those on YouTube will be able to, I'm holding it up there, Power of Human Connection. And it's a book it's how relationship marketing is transforming the way people succeed. So we talk a lot in there about relationships, and there's two kinds of relationships. There's the relationships that you have with other people, and there's relationships that you have with yourself. And a lot of times when we get into sales and marketing, we focus on the relationship with other people, but we lose the focus on the relationship with self. When I hear you two talk about mentoring, and you had two significant individuals, one mentored you philosophically, one mentored you strategically, and it helped to transform who you are today. But the one thing I want you to talk about is they also put you on a journey of a better relationship that you had with you, not just a relationship you had with them or a relationship you were going to gain with other people, but they put you on a journey with a relationship that you had with yourself, which in my opinion is the very most important relationship at all. I want both of you to talk about the importance of relationship with self. What does that mean?
Well, I want to start out with this one, Cody, just because, I would say, not only is Larry my husband, he's my best friend, but I still see him as my mentor in many ways, not only from a relationship side, but from a spiritual side, from many different aspects. But, there's several lessons, and there's several things that I could share about this, is that one of the things is he taught me has so much value. It's not about what the other person does. It's about what you do. It's not about how they treat you. It's how you respond. And so for me, one of the lessons is really, it is true mentorship, because it does allow for you to grow whenever you can look at yourself in the mirror and know that in whenever there's challenges or whatever you're being faced with, whenever you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, how can I make an impact? How can I do something differently? Because you can't change the person that you're dealing with in the set of circumstances. You can only change you.
Right.
And so for me, I think that is a huge value in how you see yourself, and how you're growing yourself is to how you grow relationships with other people. So I think that to me is almost as significant, if not more significant, in growing your relationships with other people. What do you say?
Well, I say yes to that. And most of my personal growth that's come from me is, and I learned this from Bobby and Jim, because like I said, I worked with them and fellowship with them. We went through difficulties together. We went through divorces together. We went through financial problems together. Okay. We had family troubles together. Okay. We did all of that. Okay. Now, I'm not going to say we spend every hour of the day or every day of the week or every month of the year together, but we're always together. And it's how you deal with life circumstances that's going to determine how you deal with yourself. And it's, everybody has difficulties, and your real challenge is not in, there's two challenges: prosperity and difficulties. Okay, and you deal with both of those differently. And the reality is, you got to learn to deal with both of them the same, because the difficulties, you have a daily method of operation on how you go about your thinking, how you got to go about how you are around other people. And the same thing with prosperity. I'll be honest, my biggest challenge didn't come in difficulties, okay? Because I knew what to do. I knew what I had to get done. My biggest challenges for me came in prosperity. And when in prosperity, and what happens in success, when we have success in life, this much or this much, we start to thinking that we're smarter, richer, and prettier than we really are. And we start treating ourselves differently. And so consequently, now we have difficulty treating that relationship, as you call it, with others.
Well, and here's the thing about it is that a lot of times we see that, especially in this industry, that people forget where they came from.
Yep.
They forget what it's like to struggle. And whenever they get to the other side in the prosperity aspect, they forget to identify with the little guy who's just getting started. They forget to know what it's like to, let's just say, to get themselves to a meeting, and what it's going to cost, what it's going to cost them in time, and what it's going to cost them in money, and we put expectations on people because we forget what it was like to struggle in the beginning.
You know, I want to get perspective from both of you on this, because it's a big thought that I've had as I've watched a transformation, particularly in the network marketing, direct sales industry. One of the things I love about the industry, and I own a company that is a network marketing company, and so I'm very, very familiar with the industry, been involved with it for 25 plus years. So I've seen a lot. One of the things I love about the industry is also, I believe, a challenge with the industry. It's the same thing. Our industry, we are a master at recognition. We recognize people for standing up in the morning. I mean, we recognize people really good. It's like, you know, you get into a plan, you go through different rank advancements, you earn a new level by doing some activities and building teams that do activities, and then you reach a level and you get rewarded for it, and we shower that person with recognition, which is what we should be doing. We should be doing that in the world. I always say all the time, we're a stand on our feet and cheer each other on kind of people. That's what we should do. We don't wait until people are dead and in the casket before we say the nice things. We say nice things about people today, and network marketing is one of the best industries for that. I also see it as one of its biggest challenges. Now, why do you think I would say that? Why do you think I would say that recognition is also a challenge in that profession? What have you seen go ahead.
That's a great question. And one of the challenges that you have with recognition, okay, is people think they've arrived.
That's right.
Okay. And I'll tell you what the reality is. And I just saw T.D. Jakes here recently. He's one of my spiritual guidance right now. He's a minister here in Dallas, and he's just phenomenal. And he was talking about the challenges in the church. And I absolutely related it to what we do here in certainly network marketing, but we do traditional businesses. We do all kinds of business and big billion-dollar companies. And it's not about the destination. It's about the journey, because you never arrive. You never really arrive. And when you get there, and especially in network marketing, you get there and you get that recognition, and you get the money that comes with that recognition and all the accolades that come with it, and you think you've arrived.
Yep.
Well, I got to tell you something. We never arrive. It's the daily journey that we have to take. The daily journey that we have to take with however we choose that we're going to deal with this journey today. And I just had a talk with our youngest daughter here, Cassie, here just a couple of nights ago about that she was sharing with me about she's not exactly where she wants to be in her life right now, and she's very ambitious. She's very, very wise, and she's 20. Okay, and so you understand my point there. And I said, Cassie, I said, I want you to take a look at your life, and I want to tell you, and I gave her a couple examples of some people we know, and I said that are very rich, very smart, and very pretty, and very unhappy. Yeah. Okay, because they thought it was the destination when it's the journey. So, and to kind of get we're back to what you asked here about the recognition, is that we start to buy our own press. We start to buy who and what we are. And as Taylor said earlier, we forget the struggle we had to come through. And now people want our pictures, people want our autographs, people want us on their Facebook, okay? And we start believing that we're different than they are, and we're not. It's just a matter of time.
Well, and we teach a concept, we call it the finish line and the starting line.
Good, good.
And it's a concept that allows for the recognition to take place, but it's the finish line to that destination, right? But now, once you cross the finish line, what happens? It's the starting line to the next.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And some people get stuck after they cross the finish line and don't realize they got to start again. And it's an ongoing process. And so, I mean, I think that this, whenever we see the recognition, I think there's so much value there, but I do believe that it has become a little bit distorted. And so it's a kind of a catch-22. It really is.
Yeah. I got to tell you an experience I had with you two that you don't know about. It was an observation that I made. I recently spoke at the ANMP, Association of Network Marketing Professionals, as an annual conference that they do, and I'm a speaker there each year. And you all just received a lifetime achievement, like it was like the biggest achievement award that you can get was bestowed upon you at that event. Beautiful. It was very, very well done. Very nice, very well deserved. But one of the things I noticed about both of you, and I was watching you. I mean, I was watching you. In fact, when I was on the stage, you were front and center right down there. And it was honestly almost a little intimidating. It was like, oh my gosh, I got to talk to these guys. You know what I mean? These are the guys that teach me. So, but it was fun. It was actually fun to see you there. But one of the things I noticed as I went back to my chair, I kept looking over at you guys, and you were present the entire time. You gave every single speaker the same level of attention. You took copious notes. Here you've been there, done that people that know everything there is to know about everything are front and center, taking copious notes from beginners in the profession to mid-level people to experts in the profession. And you're acting like you're a student for the very first time, capturing this information. And I was so impressed by that. I'm a student myself first. I love to learn. And so I'd love to take notes. And so I do that. But seeing you do that it was huge for me. It was really big for me. So you live what you're saying, and so talk to us about that learning, the constant need for learning. I see a lot of people, not only did they get recognized and they think they've arrived when they haven't, because none of us have ever arrived, but they also think that they're so smart now that nobody can teach them anything. And talk to us about that. What's the importance of ever learning?
Well, first of all, I'd like to address exactly what you just said, this part right there. And I think for me, what you just described of us, and first of all, thank you for acknowledging that and appreciating that. I think it's a piece of leadership that has been lost. Yes. A sense of respect. And a sense of honor, that we treat people how we would want to be treated and give them respect that we would want if the tables were turned. And so that was something that I learned early on from my mentor, that you sit in the front, you sit there and you take notes and you give honor, and where you give honor, you give respect. And because people don't do what you say, people do what you do. So there's always somebody that's going to be watching what you're doing versus what you're saying. And so I appreciate you acknowledging that. I appreciate you understanding it. First of all, I mean, there's a lot of people that wouldn't have even understood what just happened there. So I wanted to start off the conversation by thanking you for that. But I mean, I know Larry's going to talk about, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, so keep going and help me. we always are want to be students, and we always want to learn and grow and become better. I think there is a little bit of a thing in our space that's kind of been distorted a little bit, that almost gives distributors a way out, that if you learn more, you'll do more. I've got to learn more so I can do more. And so it's kind of an irony for us, because we want, when the way we teach, we wanted everybody that comes into our business at their very first day, that they have enough information that it's so fun, simple, and magical that they can get started immediately, that they don't have to know all the bits and pieces about all the product and all the bits and pieces about a comp plan, that they have a track to run on that they can get started, right? And so I think for us, I mean, that's kind of, yes, we want to learn, and yes, we want to grow, but you want to speak to that?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was taught to me 50 years ago. And like I said earlier, Jim Rohn and nobody spent as much stage time, personal time with Jim that I have. And we sat through each other's meetings and took notes, each one of us, okay? And we did that. Number one, I knew I was going to learn something, okay? Jim knew he was going to learn something. But we wanted to be there to pay that kind of respect. And it wasn't that we did it out of necessity. We did it out of desire, because we wanted to be there. And like in Herbalife, when we're doing Herbalife together, if the distributor saw us do that, then they had a chance of doing that too. A chance. And then when they got up there, then there's going to be people sitting out in that audience. And I firmly believe that if you're going to affect people, okay, the way that you want to affect people, then you got to be what you're talking about. And doesn't mean that you can't skate. It doesn't mean that you can't go be successful and even big success and not be what you're talking about. We've all seen both sides of the coin, okay? But I will tell you right now, the people that really have the impact, and you're talking about a Jim Rohn, for example, that really have the impacts are the people that do what they're teaching their people to do. They've done it on it and continue to do it. Not 50 years ago, not 30 years ago, not 30 months ago, not 3 months ago. They're doing it today. Every single day, I start my day off right now, and it's with a spiritual teacher and teachers that I have, that I listen to online and take notes on every day to build up my spiritual life, which is the most important thing to me. But to be able to build the relationships as you're talking about, but to be able to share it. And one of the biggest things that's always happened, and Taylor and I talk about this all the time to each other before we go up and talk to people. And by the way, we never have notes. I don't know if you noticed that at the A&MT. We have no notes, okay? Right. We have no notes ever, okay? Because you know why? Because I was taught that don't let what you have to say to your audience interfere with what your audience needs to hear.
Yeah, exactly.
Big difference, because you get caught up in what you want to say, your PowerPoint, and how you want it to be, and I'll get this pop here, and I'll get this amen over there concept, okay, and I'll go off and everybody want my autograph. Don't believe that what you've got to say is so important that you miss what your audience needs to hear. You can only know that by knowing what your craft and what you're doing, and knowing what that audience is going through, good, bad, and indifferent. And in that audience, there's good, bad, and indifferent. There's somebody out there that has tears coming down their eyes because they don't know how they're going to get through this day. We have people out there that just bought the Lamborghini and they think they're smarter, richer, and prettier than they are. And they're in that audience, and you got to be able to blend. I'm sorry.
That's great. I love you said that. In fact, I've kind of learned that the hard way myself. When I first started out, I love telling stories. I mean, I just like to tell stories, and I've always been most effective when I just get up and tell stories and read the audience. One thing I've learned over the years is how to read the audience and be able to tailor the presentation to what they're talking about. But the best way to do that is, like you said, don't be so canned in your presentation. And I've made the mistake as a presenter, and I hope our listeners are kind of listening to this, because most people that are in sales, they're presenting all the time. And I think it's important that you stay authentic to who you are. I remember starting as a storyteller and being very effective as a speaker and being invited back to all kinds of stuff. And when you go to those events, you see all these fancy PowerPoints that other people are doing and all this stuff. And it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. I think I'm going to try that, you know, and then you go try it. And next thing you know, you're doing this weird presentation that's kind of out of your element, and you have to come back full circle to just be you. And you guys are so good at that. It's just incredible. I want to go back to something Taylor was saying a second ago about, you know, people that get into the training mode, and it's kind of like, you know, rather than actually do the work, I'm just going to go get trained again.
Yeah.
Another thing that I see going on in our profession, and this is all sales professions. This is in network marketing. It's in direct sales. It's in different niche sales, inside sales, all the type of stuff that's out there. One of the things I've noticed is that, especially with social media, is that people want the next 5-step plan. It's like, you can scroll your news feed and there's a new 3-step plan here, 5-step plan there, 4-step plan there, 6-step plan there, all to become a genius sales expert and break all the rules or break all the records and all that kind of stuff. And I noticed that people are jumping from the next 3-step to the next 5-step. And there's a lot of self-proclaimed gurus that are jumping into that and creating content. Like you said, Larry, they're not doing it. They're just creating the content. And so what happens is people get caught in that. It's like they get caught in that training mode, and they don't get caught in the doing mode. So one of the things we talk a lot about is whatever 5-step anything you learn, whatever the process is, like, you know, you learned the strategic part of your business, Larry, from Mr. Depew back in the days. He taught you a system. He taught you something that you had to watch. But it wasn't until, at least I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, because I teach this all the time. It wasn't until you developed those techniques into habit. Once it becomes a habit, then you go somewhere. And what I've noticed is that people never get to the habit level of whatever 5-step plan they're doing. And so they'll jump to the next one. They don't have success and they jump to the next one. It takes time to create habits. Talk to us about habits.
Yeah. Well, let me kind of jump in there on that one and share a couple things for you about this, because here's what I know about salespeople. I was going to say distributors, but you got a larger audience. Here's what I know about salespeople, whether it be insurance, whether it be real estate, or it be network marketing. Here's what I know. Salespeople always want to take the path of least resistance, okay? The least resistance. In our industry, our job description is simple: onboard customers and onboard members. That's it, okay? It isn't going up there and sharing, leading your people down the 5-step, the 7-step, the 3-step. It's onboarding, very, very simple. And so if you take that in position, the concept that if someone is only going to go for the path of least resistance, what they do not want to do is their job description. Salespeople do not want to do their job description. They want to do something else other than their job description. And today, it's learning. It's learning more. And today's environment says, if I learn more, I can do more. And so they learn more to do more. But guess what? Now they have another 5-step program. They have to learn more before they do more. And so how can the habits be developed? Because it's fragmented. And so in our industry, it's very simple. We believe, me and Taylor, we believe, okay, firmly, that when our salespeople joins a team, they already have everything they need at that moment to be successful. And what I mean by that, what does it really take? There's only half a dozen things to learn in our profession. There's only a few of them. And it's just a simple concept. Let's use baseball. Baseball has some very simple concepts: run, hit, catch, throw, period. Run, hit, catch, throw. We're in football season here now. Guess what they're going to be doing on today, Tuesday? Okay, they're looking at the run, hit, catch, throw of football. Okay, what they're tackle and all that stuff. Okay, you get my point. And so they're looking at that. They're not creating new ways to learn it. They're not creating new ways to do it. They're creating the run, hit, catch, throw. And how do I get better at it? By doing the little bitty stuff, what you call habits.
And here's the thing where people really miss the mark is that they think that they have to have it perfected before they go out to do it.
Right.
And they don't realize that where the real growth comes in is by going out and actively doing it.
Tell me a little dribbler story.
I mean, let's talk about, I mean, whenever you think about like basketball, I mean, he likes baseball. I'm a basketball player, you know.
Star.
And so basketball, it was dribble, pass, shoot, right? Those were the core values. Those were the basic fundamentals. And if you think about it as a, you know, you get started as a little dribbler and you can't, you know, you can't bounce the ball very good and you shoot with two hands and you pass the ball, but it doesn't necessarily get to the person that they're passing it to. But what happens, every practice, you're practicing the same fundamentals every single time. But as you grow up from little dribblers, now you're getting into junior high school, what are you're practicing the same things, but are you better at it? Yeah. Are you better at the dribbling? Yeah. Can you shoot it a little bit better because you've had some practice, not two hands, just one hand, right? I mean, that's the concept. But here's the thing, even as you go up through high school and college, you're still practicing the same fundamentals. The only variable is you've had more practice doing it. Whenever you look at professional, it's the same thing. If everybody would understand, it's only the activity that allows you to grow and become better. It's the same things. It's just doing it repeatedly until you become the best you can be.
You know, it's interesting you say that. I actually share in speeches all the time, you know, watch an NBA game. These are the top basketball players on the planet. And for at least an hour before a game starts, what are they doing? Just what you just said. They're out there practicing the fundamentals. They're dribbling, they're passing, they're shooting, and they do it for a long period of time before the game ever starts. And guess what? They're never above that. You know, Michael Jordan was Michael Jordan because he did those things longer and more intensely than anybody else. If you want to learn the key to success, you know, whether you're a Kobe Bryant fan or not, go look at the documentaries of Kobe Bryant and how hard that man worked at his craft.
Yeah.
And again, it's fundamentals. Like you said, don't you have daughters that play basketball?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she plays college basketball. Yes.
That's great. So is there like friendly competition between mom and daughter, or what how does that all work at Thanksgiving, you know?
I'm going to tell you, Candace is so competitive, Taylor would lose. That's what I would tell you.
But I'd give her a run for her money. That's for sure.
There's no doubt about that. You give anybody a run for their money. But here, I said earlier, I made a statement earlier that we believe everyone's got the basic skills to be successful right now. Let's take a single mom. Let's take a waitress. Let's take an entrepreneur. Let's take an accountant. Let's take a construction worker. Okay. If they're doing well, whatever their background is, whatever their life experience is, if they're succeeding in that, a single mom is succeeding and taking care of her kids. Okay. The accountant is succeeding and taking care of his clients, and the waitress, they're succeeding. What does that take? It takes 5 basic elements: self-responsibility, self-determination, self-motivation, self-discipline, and then they become self-functional. So if you are a homemaker, truck driver, you're a construction worker, or you're an entrepreneur, you're doing whatever you're doing, you have those 5 selves. All you've got to do is transfer that into your new sales entity. In this case, we're referring to network marketing. You already have those basic fundamentals. You just got to give yourself the authority to move over here and do it. Yep. And if you could do that, and then there's only run, hit, catch, throw, a few things to do. It's when you have run, hit, catch, throw, and then you have to do a half an hour of personal growth a day. And it's run, hit, catch, throw, and you have to be mentoring. Then it's run, hit, catch, throw, and you have to do Facebook Lives. And it's run, hit, catch, throw, 5 steps, 3 steps, 7 steps. That's where the difficulty comes in. And I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody but me.
Oh, it's incredible. It's incredible. It's people are going to have to push replay over and over to listen to that last 30 seconds of what you just said, because those 5 things I think are really, really powerful. We talked a little bit about this in the pre-show, is, 50 plus years in sales capacity and training capacity. One of the things that both of you have been really good at is recognizing shifts. And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about what that even means. Over 50 years, there have been a lot of shifts in the marketplace. Technology's created shifts. A lot of things, everything. There's a lot of things that have associated to creating shifts in the marketplace, regardless of your industry. You've been really good at recognizing those shifts and being proactive. So talk to us a little bit about some of the shifts that you've seen over the last years and how you were proactive and stayed in front of it.
Well, sometimes you get lucky and sometimes it's on purpose. I mean, I'll be completely honest with you about that one. But it has shifted. And I've seen major shifts in 50 years of doing network marketing and direct sales. And the key is you got to always recognize your audience. You got to know who your audience is, and you got to know what language they speak, and you got to know their behaviors. And as the world shifts and as the sales climate shifts, the audience changes, okay? The language that they hear changes, and the behavior changes. And I first became aware of this, and for me, back in 1979, and got realized I started in 68, and as Taylor said jokingly, but it was the truth, there was pyramiding back then because there was no rules and how it was set up. And the government did not want that kind of behavior going on. And there was an audience that wanted that. There was a language that they spoke, and there was a behavior that was created that got the government to come in and says, we are going to change this. Now, there were a handful of companies that said, we're not doing anything wrong, okay? We're willing to comply with your rules and regulations in this shift. And they fought. Primarily, it was Amway. Right. And Amway fought tooth and nail. They put all their resources in that and said, no, this is a legitimate way of doing business. And in 1978, they came to an agreement with the government. 1979, I believe, is when it went into effect. And that was the first time that the government, or the people, recognized that multi-level marketing, MLM, was put out in the marketplace and said multi-level marketing is a viable profession if it's done like this. Now, back then, there was Amway, Mary Kay, Shackley, Tupperware, okay, a few, Princess House, or I believe was back there then. All of those they made changes in their compensation models to adapt to what those rules were. But here's what happened. When that took place, the audience for multi-level changed from the cigar smoking, Cadillac driving people, okay, and drinking at the meetings, okay, and all of that stuff. It changed. There was a new audience, okay, and that new audience that you had there spoke a different language. For example, if you're going to go into Spain and do business, okay, you got to recognize you better speak some Spanish if you're going to go there. You may be able to communicate, but to be as effective as you can, you got to speak the language that audience that you're in front of, and then you have to have the behavior. And what happened to us with Herbalife, that happened in 1979. And when it was Mark's idea to start Herbalife, okay? It wasn't mine, it was his. And it took him a few months, almost a year, to get me into the groove of it. But I knew we had something unique with him and his story, what he wanted to do, and with the experience that I had with Jim and Bobby. And we recognized the shift. We recognized that there was a new audience for multi-level. We recognized that there was a new language that they were speaking. And we recognized that there was a behavior. If you could create a behavior that would drive that. That's why Herbalife went like this, okay? Went like this, okay? Now, and so we recognize that. Now, let me kind of come to current. And I'll go back only about a decade. And well, some of us will remember Blockbuster Video.
Yeah.
no longer exist. Okay. A friend of mine had his Blockbuster card, and it was not 2008 was the date on it. And I thought, well, I thought it was longer than that. What happened is the audience changed. Okay. The language that they like to hear changed.
Yeah.
And that meant their behavior, buying habits changed. Okay. As a result, they're gone. Here's Netflix. There has been a major shift in the direct sales industry, a major shift that has completely changed the audience and the language and the behavior. And I attribute that to a couple things. And one of them is the Uber success. Okay. And Taylor made a statement here almost 2 years ago now that said that she believed that the Uber environment was created because the network marketing space ignored that audience and that language and that behavior.
Yeah.
And so you have the Amazon affiliate program that is out there. What do those things have in common? They have significant things in common. Number one, they've recognized the audience. The audience that's out there today no longer is listening to the Lamborghini mansion, $10,000 in 90-day message. They're looking for fun, simple, flexibility, and $500 to $1,000 a month. That's it. That's what they're looking for. Doesn't mean they can't make more. It means that that's the big audience. So if you know that that audience is there, and you know what language they speak, then you create the behavior that will drive that, you're going to be extremely successful. What's happened, especially to network marketing, it has not recognized that at all. Does not recognize that. And the language, the audience that they speak to, the language that they speak and the behavior that they create with these compensation models works for that